Ah, a nice small set. The new source kit has more HP than the other two and is probably the best for that alone, but all three Masquerades so far are bad, so you probably wouldn't run it. The latest one has nice damage potential, but every type has a card that can do this damage without needing to discard energy. Charcadet got a new card from the event, and the ability to stall for time is certainly better than its extremely mediocre original card. Psyduck's new card has a bit more HP, but the original locking the opponent out of using supporters is much more useful than the other two. For Golduck, all three cards are honestly pretty interchangeable, and the middle one is probably the best just for having decent power and low investment. New Vaporeon locks Retreating, which has good synergy with Sabrina or even Vaporeon EX, but the high retreat cost of both Mons makes the combo awkward, while running them both with Greninja EX would be clunky. I think the card alone is probably okay, but the washout one has the most novelty and merit. Honorable mention to the Hyper Whirlpool one though. I can only imagine the opponent's face if you got both the full attack cost from a Misty, then forced them to discard all their energies on the same turn, but of course that usually won't happen. Weasel's latest card costs 2 energies, which is not good considering 3 of the 4 Floatzel cards only need 1. Plus, the middle one also has 70 HP. I'd probably use the middle one, but the original is pretty close. As for Floatzel, the latest one's power is not even that impressive for its extremely high cost, especially when the HP is so low. The best one is probably the Attack the Wound one, which has an impressive 90 damage for 1 energy if you have a benched Greninja, not to mention being able to do that to any mon on your opponent's field if you have Cyrus too. The old Snom's only edge is a colorless energy requirement, but both Frostmoths need water, so the new one is just better. I suppose the old Frostmoth has some synergy with Darkrai, but both of them look underwhelming. Pomi's latest card loses HP, but being able to draw it with Lissia is quite good. Additionally, its damage output is great. It's probably the best of the 3, but there is some merit to being able to set up Cyrus with the middle one. The new Pawmot also has synergy with Cyrus, dealing the same damage as the middle one, but spreading it out onto a bench target. And it's probably the best despite its lower HP. That being said, I think most Pawmot decks would run Nemona, which can't be used on the same turn as Cyrus, so you'll be juggling which supporter to use. For Pawmot itself, the new one's damage is low, but the paralysis effect and low cost make it absurdly good with Will and Rare Candy respectively. Unfortunately, this card just came out at the wrong time, since almost everyone is currently running Pokemon Center Lady. Plus, as I said, you can't play Will and Nemona at the same time. The best one is almost certainly the middle one, just for its titanic damage output with Nemona. I screwed up for writing Espeon off during first impressions. It's probably the best card of the new set. Between the boosted evolution Eevee and the synergy with Darkrai, this Espeon can do as much as 80 damage as early as turn 2. Not to mention the sleep turns can be immensely disruptive for your opponent, and you'll often win without them even getting a chance to play. The old Espeon isn't even bad, but the new one is a top meta threat. A paralysis chance is good, but the new Flittl's HP is so low that it actually feels very vulnerable to an early KO. It probably is the better card, but even a 20 damage attack from a Dark Basic will knock it out. As for Espathra, its attack is very interesting and closely matches its effect in the video games. But alas, you've got better psychic types to invest in, so you probably wouldn't touch either of these. The old cards for Greavard and its evolution Houndstone are so much better that you wouldn't even think to use the new ones. The Greavard's higher damage lets it knock out babies, plus it powers up Houndstone's attack. Meanwhile, Houndstone's old card has an easy condition for damage equalization, much higher damage potential, plus a lower attacking cost. The old Houndstone is actually good enough to function in top-level competitive play, while the new one looks awful. Umbreon's old card is surprisingly good and can completely counter some decks. The new one is barely stronger, but the effect, Confusion, is not as useful, especially considering the higher cost. New Sneasel does either 10 or 30 on a coin flip, which is a lower average damage than both the other two, though I guess it has the highest chance of the 3 to 1 tap a baby. I'd probably just run the middle one. For Weavile, it's very similar to beginning Bolt Jolteon, hitting 60 damage on 1 energy the turn it evolves, and that's a very powerful benchmark. But it's not as good as Jolteon since it lacks the boosted evolution Eevee, and the main reason you'd use Weavile is on a Weavile EX deck to muscle through Oricorio, which the old Weavile would probably do better. Sableye seems to exist specifically to set up Terapagos, and in that role it's quite good I suppose. The two aren't really competing for utility at all. Pawniard has 2 new cards counting the event one, plus I've included the second metal one here since it can also be used on dark decks. The middle one can knock out babies or be drawn with Lissia, which are both nice. However, filling out the bench with the event one has merit too. You could use either of these, and it's probably not worth touching the metal one. Metal Bisharp on the other hand works excellently on dark decks since its attack allows it to retreat to the bench, which works well alongside Kingambit's endgame. The new one is a fantastic middle evolution, and you can go either way, but I think despite the higher cost, the original is more stable and useful. Old Corviknight's attack effect is exceptional, but discarding 2 metal energies is just terrible, even if you're running it alongside Orthworm, Dialga, or Probopass. The main reason I think you'd play this is on a Corviknight EX deck to hit Oricorio, and in that role, the new Corviknight is exceptional. Not to mention it has nearly the same power as the old one on a lower cost, and should potentially be useful in any matchup. To me, the new one is much better. The latest Altaria has a funny synergy with Will, but the failure being so punishing really kills this card. The middle one can kill Oricorio for Mega Altaria decks, but all Mega Altaria's common allies can already do that, so you wouldn't bother with this. Amusingly, it's actually the original Altaria that has meta relevance, having a surprisingly good early game in Terapagos decks where you can easily set it up with babies or spare the energies thanks to Juggler. Yeah, there's 10 Eevees. The new one can potentially make the opponent miss their turn if they can't retreat, but Boosted Evolution or Find a Friend are still clear winners to me. Both Giraffe rigs are unimpressive. The old one has terrible synergy with Varigiraffe, which is decks may be playable, so the new one is better. The original Dunsparce has Merit and Paralysis spam decks, which are sadly not viable right now. The middle Dunsparce has synergy with the Dunsparce and Celebi, which allows you to evolve repeatedly to discard your opponent's energies. The new one has no particular niche over the other two, and is probably the worst of them. Sing Swablu is undoubtedly the best of the four, giving you both synergy with Darkrai's passive damage plus another chance to draw Mega Altaria. Find a Friend Swablu might have merit if Darkrai ends up falling off sometime down the line. The new Fury Attack one looks terrible, even compared to the original. For Rufflet, it's the classic choice of damage versus HP. I choose HP personally. Both Braviaries have suspect damage output for their costs, and neither one looks viable at all. The new Hawlucha is a surprisingly decent early game card, but Furfrou has the same average damage while also bringing a damage mitigation ability. The best of these is almost certainly the Takedown one for its ability to slot into any deck and one-tap Oricorio, but no decks really need that right now. Even Entei Charizard, which is very EX heavy, doesn't bother to make room for it. Rookedee's latest card has an impressive damage output and is probably better than the original, however removing tools is quite novel, so the middle one looks good too. For Corvus Squire, you lose HP compared to the others, but your low attack cost is very appealing, but again the middle one discarding tools has some value. I'd personally use the latest card for both. Our final new duplicate is Flamigo. The energy cost is ridiculous for a mon with such low HP as this. None of the Flamigos look good at all, and I wouldn't touch any of them. Thanks for watching.